Thank you all for joining us today at this Peace Week event. You're here for this Peace Week event that is basically run by our students and alumni. And this is about Circles for Justice. So before we start the event, I'll give you a quick, brief introduction of what we're going to do here. So circle practice is something that the Carter School has been doing. We've been training people in circle processes. We have been conducting basic circle process training, but this is not a training. This is just the awareness of what circles are. And, we would want you to experience circles with us. And, when we start the event, we'll tell you a little bit about what circles are, what restorative justice is, what's the connection of circles with restorative justice, and what are community building circles? We're not going to talk about other kind of circles, but just the community building circles. And in that, you'll get a little flavor of how community building circles are run. And like I said earlier, this is not a full-fledged training. This is just an introduction. And we have a great team here with us. They're going to take you through the process of circles. And when we're in circles, I would just like you to know one thing, that circles won't be recorded. Whatever we share in the awareness part, you can just take notes or just listen in. And when you're in the circle, you're going to experience the same thing in the end. And when the circle ends, each circle would have a circle keeper, and they will take you through the process. And at the end of the circles, we're going to have, we're going to come to the main room together, and then we can have Q&A. So hold on to your questions, and we are very excited to have you all here with us. And Lane, if you could please share the screen, we can start with our formal presentation. Thank you.
I apologize. I thought I was sharing it. Let me just take one moment.
You're good. So while Lane shares her screen, we'll have our undergrad students here from the Carter School. And like I said, our alumni tell you about what circles are. And then, all the circle keepers, yes, you're going to have in the breakout rooms are all trained circle keepers. So they have been through the basic circle process training. So you'll see how we run those circles. Thank you so much, Lane. Now we can see the screen. Thank you for sharing. So this is Circles for Justice, and this is basic circle process awareness. We're doing this for Peace Week, Fall 2022. And this is done from our Transitioning Justice Lab. You can see our website, and we'll send you the link in the end. Lane, next slide, please. So the agenda of our presentation is opening, land and labor acknowledgement, circle values, key elements of circles, different circle, different design, circle practice, which is a breakout room, and then closing in the end.
So to ground us, we all have life going on outside of here. And whether you're coming from class or from work or from any other piece of madness in the rest of your life, this is a whole separate space. So to transition into this with us, I'd like to share this quote with you by Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen. The most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Just listen. Perhaps the most important thing we ever give each other is our attention. So welcome.
Thank you, Leo, for that opening. Land and labor acknowledgement. Leo, would you do the land and labor acknowledgement?
I could do it too.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna.
Okay. What happened in the past shapes our present. Many harms, injustices reverberate to this day. To begin to repair those harms, we tell the truth, both about the harms and about the people whose lives and contributions have been made visible as a result. At the place George Mason University occupies, we give greetings and thanksgivings to those Potomac River life sources, to the dog ancestors, to Virginia annihilated in violence campaigns while ripping their lands apart from the brutal systems of African-American enslavement, to the recognized Virginia tribes who have lovingly stored these lands for millennia, including the Rappahannock, Pamunkey, sorry for my pronunciation, Upper Mattapony, Chickahominy, Eastern Chickahominy, Nasamond, Monacan, Mataponi, Patawawek, and Nottoway, past, present, and future, and the Piscataway tribes who have lived on both sides of the river from time immemorial. We also acknowledge the prosperity of what we know now as Fairfax was built in large measure on the stolen labor of people of African descent. At that, George Mason University is named for a person who owned more than 100 people of African descent with no legal claim to their humanity. Mason voiced opposition to the slave trade, but did little to undermine slavery. We remember in order to move forward.
Thank you so much, Anna.
And today, our presentation is about circle process awareness in the context of restorative justice framework. So let's view a short video to address what do we mean by what is restorative justice. Lane, you're welcome to play the video for us.
It's good now.
When a crime is committed, people are hurt, no matter what kind of crime. Theft, vandalism, break and enter, harassment, intimidation, armed robbery, physical assault, homicide. Every situation is unique, but that doesn't mean you're alone. Restorative justice can help. Restorative justice is an approach that focuses on addressing the harm caused by crime, meaningful accountability, and meeting the needs of the people involved through safe and voluntary dialogue. Restorative justice processes provide a safe way for victims, offenders, community members, and others affected by a crime to talk about what happened. Victims can explain how the crime affected them and ask questions like, how did this happen? Why me? Is it going to happen again? What's going to happen to the person who did this to me? How do I go on from here? Often, offenders wonder, what can I do to repair the harm? How can I make things better? What does a victim need from me? The process helps offenders understand how others were affected by their actions and take responsibility for those actions, for the harm they caused, and for repairing that harm. RJ processes are voluntary, inclusive, and flexible. They can take different forms and offer different levels of involvement. These processes are guided by a skilled facilitator who will create and maintain a safe, sensitive, and respectful environment for participants to communicate in an open and honest way. People who have participated in a restorative justice process have experienced reparation, recognition, understanding, empowerment, improvements in health and well-being, positive change, and forward movement.
I expected to be repulsed by a pathetic attempt to say sorry. I hoped to find a young man recovering and taking full responsibility for what he did. I received more than I could have wished for when I came to realize that he truly wanted to take back his actions.
I found the experience good. It made me look at the effects of my crime towards the victims and how it made them feel. I have a true understanding that my actions do cause harm and have long-term effects for the victim.
There are hundreds of RJ programs across the country, and thousands of criminal cases go through these programs every year. Visit csc-scc.gc.ca/restorative-justice.
So what is the circle process? So the circle process, the point of it is to bring people together to understand one another. The point of it is to help make the bonds between the community stronger, and also with that, solve community problems. Like Sarah mentioned earlier, we are going to be focusing mainly on community building circles. So there are different kind of circles, but we won't be talking about that here today. Next slide. So the circles draw on global indigenous tradition to bring people together, such as Native Americans in the USA, as well as indigenous people in Africa and in Australia and New Zealand. These are practices that have been part of their culture for as long as their cultures have existed, and we're just taking a little from them and learning and sharing with you guys today. Next. Okay, so we're going to do an activity here, I believe. So circle values, everybody has a value, right? Or we have several values. Members of each circle, when you go to do your circles, you'll explore together like what values you have and what you're going to bring to the circle process itself, basically. Yeah, okay, Sarah will be giving you instructions.
Thank you so much, Maron, for sharing that. And we're going to do a quick activity here. You know what, I'm going to take you through how can you stamp the value that resonates most with you today. And I will give you the instructions. How can you stamp? If you know how to stamp, you can start stamping already. What you can do is at the top of the screen, click on View Options, choose Annotate, choose Stamp, then click on the value that speaks to you today for this event. If you need to have the stamping function removed from your screen, you can choose clear. And if you don't want, I see it stamped already. We see love, respect, honesty, humility, empathy, sharing, trust, courage, generosity, inclusivity, respect. So all these values are what we are bringing today with us in the circle. Yeah, I see more stamps. A lot on trust, respect, humility. Thank you all for doing this. And Maron will take you, once we're done with this, she will tell you about the key elements of the circles. Let's wait a few more seconds and let everyone stamp. Yeah, I see another stamp on love, inclusivity. Thank you all for doing that. Lane, we can move to the next slide. And Maron, you can.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. So the key elements of a circle. So as mentioned before, when you saw our agenda, you saw what we're going to go through. The key elements, there's a ceremony, a ritual, and then community agreements. This goes back to like our values and things like that. There's a talking piece. Usually if this was like happening in person physically, like you would have a talking piece that you would pass around. And then keeping facilitation, and then there's a consensus decision making. There are 5 structural elements these are the 5 structural elements of circles that help create a safe space and make communities connect in a good way during times of conflict, or even during times of peace. Next. Okay, so the ceremony, we've already started our opening ceremony. The opening ceremony help participants like center themselves, be reminded of the core values which we've already gone over, which I saw a lot of people between trust and empathy, which was great. Clear negative energies, like Leo said, anything else from the outside world, you want to be in the circle, and honor the presence of everyone there. And then we're going to have a closing ceremony, and it's about acknowledging the efforts of the circle, affirming the interconnectedness, and conveying a sense of hope for the future. So that's what we also hope, that you're able to gain something good from the activity, the circle activity that we're going to do later on. Next, please.
Okay, so community agreements are commitments or promises that participants make to one another about how they will behave in the circle. Community agreements establish clear expectations for conduct based on what the participants need to make a safe space to speak their authentic voices. Agreements are adopted by consensus of the circle. And this is one of the first things that happens after the opening ceremony. And so this is a really important part of the circle because, as I said, it's the first step of community building in a circle, and you have to come to these as a consensus. So this is where the whole circle process really starts.
So you may hear, we call them community agreements. You may hear the term guidelines used, but that is very much, we came to the conclusion that that's very westernized in a way. So it's important to speak to how circles operate and the inclusivity and the collective nature that is cultivated and that exists at the root of restorative practice. So as we create community agreements, they are created collectively together. That's done in a round fashion where everyone has the opportunity to give voice to what they need from that circle. And so these are some that often come up. You have confidentiality. What is stayed here, what is shared here, stays here. Circles are not recorded. And I like to say, share the lessons and protect the teacher. So carry the lessons with you, but honor the confidentiality of who did the sharing. Respect the talking piece, or virtually the speaking order. Remember that participation is always voluntary. Prompts are invitations, not directives. And participants may pass. And you can also sit and use your time with the talking piece or in the order to breathe, to process before speaking. So this is not a rushed process. And it's important to respect each participant and to listen actively and only use the chat box for technical help, not side conversations. Be patient and compassionate, especially since this is a new process for all of us. And vulnerability is welcomed. It's important to speak and listen from the heart. That's how we cultivate that safety and courage together. And time, right? Time seems to always be limited. So it's important to honor the voices of all. So take the time that you need to speak while being mindful of the need for others to have time as well. And it's helpful in this virtual setting to have your audio on mute until it's your time to share. And we also invite you to have your camera on. Again, uplifting the full presence of each participant where all are seen, all are heard, and all are welcomed. It's also important to acknowledge assent or understanding through nonverbal means, whether it's facial expressions, clapping, whether the ASL version, or hearing. And again, this process is tailored to the needs of each group. So you would do a round and see how many people, see if you can reach consensus and how people feel. So for today, to practice what we preach, could we have a thumbs up if you agree, a thumbs down if you disagree, or a thumb in the middle if you need more clarity? Feel free to either hold your thumb up or put the actual thing virtually under reactions at the bottom, and then a little thumbs up. The next slide.
Right. Thank you, Leo. The talking piece is a critical element of creating a space in which participants can speak from a deep place of truth. The speaking order assures speakers that they will not be interrupted and that they will be able to pause and find the words that express what is in their hearts and minds. The talking piece provides an equalizing element, giving power to every member of the group. The person with the talking piece is the only one talking, everyone else listens. In an in-person setting, the talking piece is an object, such as the shell, for example, something that can be held in your hand and pass easily. And often it's an object with meaning to the group, and it can be any object easily passed from person to person. In a virtual setting, such as ours, our talking piece will be represented by using a value. For example, when I'm finished sharing within my circle, I would see who is next on the speaking order list. And I would say, for example, I pass to Leo or I pass to Sarah with a value such as kindness or respect or honesty, whatever value you'd like to use. And then that person will have the talking piece and the group's full attention.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. The next part is the circle keeper. The circle keeper is the person who facilitates the circle. The keeper in a circle is not responsible for finding solutions or for controlling the group. The role of the keeper is to initiate a space that is respectful and safe, going back to the agreements that Leo spoke about. And, a talking piece or a value, like they're supposed to just facilitate a space where everybody feels safe and like they can speak. Next. So consensus decision making. Not all peacemaking circles make decisions, but when they do, the decisions are made by consensus. So it's all about the community or the people involved in the circle agreeing to whatever happens in the circle to okay, so for example, if it's a situation where let's say we're in a high school and two kids got into a fight, they would have a circle with their teacher, a facilitator, or a circle keeper, and the two kids that were involved in the fight, as well as possibly their parents, right? If they decide, they don't have to decide to forgive each other during that circle, but if they do, it would be both the perpetrator and the victim's choice to move forward. That's basically what this means. Next.
So there are two main broad category circles. As we have said earlier, we're only talking about community building circles today, but we wanted to at least just introduce the other type. So community building circles can be used for a variety of things, such as celebration, understanding, learning, gratitude, staff renewal, team building, and pretty much any other place where you have community and you'd like to strengthen that. And then on the other side, there are intervention circles, which are most often used when some sort of harm has been committed, and people need to come to a reconciliation of that. And so it can be used for conferencing after harm, for sentencing, for healing, on larger scales for truth-telling and reconciliation, for accountability, and then there's lots of other kinds. But those are just the two main broad types.
Thank you, Tori, for explaining that. So as we see right in front of us, this is Restorative Arlington created this diagram just to give us a visual effect of where does the community building circles stand, and on the other spectrum will be the intervention one. So restorative practices fall on a continuum from proactive to responsive. Practices such as community building circles require only a modest amount of facilitators training and participants preparation. Targeted interventions that address harm and conflict requires extensive training and experience to facilitate, as well as additional preparation for participants. And I'll just give you all a moment to just take a look at it. We are doing community building circles today, which is like the big one that you see to your screen. I'll just give you a moment. And just a reminder that today, when we would like to emphasize again that it is a circle awareness presentation, it is a circle awareness circle process. So as we go out into break rooms, we're going to be engaging in the community building circles, or some people may call it learning circles, right? Because we are learning. This is a new process for everyone. I just wanted to mention that. And also, this process is voluntary. As we go into the circles, if you feel like, you want to mute, or if you don't want to share sometimes in circles, you don't have to share if you don't feel comfortable. So that is something that I just want to point out there. You're welcome to take that moment to just hold that space, and then you can pass with the value to the next person. And with that being said, I believe that our next thing to do will be breaking out into breakout rooms, right?
Yes. Thank you so much, Anna, for explaining that graphic in a very nice way. Thank you for doing that. Yes, like Anna said, we will be in the breakout rooms for 45 minutes. You will have a circle keeper. You heard all the presentation, and the circle keeper will take you through a circle process. And when we come back, we will have some time for question and answer. So one thing I would suggest is that when you come back, and if you want to share something about the process, not about the conversation, you can nominate one person who can, just share it with the larger group. And Lane, whenever you're ready, please take your time to break us out into the breakout rooms. We'll see you back in 45 minutes. And if you have any problem, we will have someone in the main room to come back to. Thank you.
Okay. While we're waiting for more people to come back, if anyone has any questions to ask, you can raise your hand virtually, or actually physically raise your hand, and we can take some questions for a few minutes. Also, if you don't have any questions, if you want to make some comments about how the circle process went, we can also have that as well.
I can start for how the circle process went. I don't even know what number the group was in, but the moderator was Sarah, a T. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I pronounced it right. And I was in that group. It was 6 of us in there, and the circle process went very well. It brought order to the conversation. The circle was opened and it was formally closed. And with each statement, we passed it along with the values. So we followed all of the initial notes that you mentioned previously to the T, and that allowed us to listen too, because you had to make sure that you're passing it along to the next person, and we could relay back to what other people said. I enjoyed the process overall, so it went well. It worked as intended.
Thank you.
I could go next. So I apologize to my group because we didn't close our circle. We were still having a discussion, so we didn't get to we didn't bring the circle to a close. Our group had a really, really profound discussion. People made themselves quite vulnerable and opened up quite a bit. There was a very deep level of honesty and emotion. It was a really profound 45 minutes is, I guess, what I could say. And I think that, and then there were some good questions as well. So we did it a little bit, we were a little bit unorthodox in that, we had questions coming up. But I think overall, I'm hoping everybody had a good experience, but I'm biased because I was a circle keeper. And with respect, I pass to whoever the next circle keeper is who wants to speak.
Well, I suppose I'll jump in and share appreciation for these processes. It's continually encouraging for me and meaningful for me to be able to engage in co-creating spaces with people that encourages sharing, that encourages strength and vulnerability in a way that we just really don't have many of them in our society. So to be able to come together intentionally and create them together using this practice that we honor the indigenous roots of, right? Like we didn't come up with this. This is something that we are finally getting back to, and having the honor to be able to benefit from, and that I see as the avenue through which we can finally experience community again. So feeling that, feeling all of that in our little 45 minutes was nice and encouraging and meaningful. So thank you to all of my circle mates.
And I just want to echo some of the key points that Leo made as well. I really appreciate everyone in our group. It was very meaningful to be part of it. I know that one of our members, Jesse, he's also a circle keeper. So it was great to have that in the group too. So yeah, it was a really nice experience to connect. And as I mentioned to all the participants in there, we always learn something new every time. Jesse, I saw you on mute. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm tuning in from Canada. And even on Zoom, doing a circle on Zoom, it's just amazing to me how it feels like we're building community when it happens. So I really appreciated that, even with the vast distances here. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you, everyone. If nobody else wants to add anything, I'll let Sarah take over for the next piece.
Thank you so much, Maron, and and thank you everyone for sharing this. Before we formally end, I would just like to share that every time I'm in a circle, it like all of you, I echo what all of you said. It's just a great process, and just being together with community feels really good. And we really appreciate your interest in this process. We have been doing this for I think 2-3 peace weeks. We would appreciate that you join us again. And if you're interested to know more about our lab, you can go to the website. We'll put the link in the chat. And we traditionally, would anyone like the space to say something before we close? Ask a question or say something?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I guess since I'm not affiliated with the school, I'm wondering like where we can find out more or get more training in circles.
Susan, do you want to answer that, or I can answer?
Thank you for your interest. At the Carter School, we periodically have opportunities for training. I don't know offhand of one coming up this term, but you can check with us. A couple of other places are our partners, Restorative Response Baltimore. They periodically have training. And then Eastern Mennonite University has pretty extensive training in a variety of forms of restorative justice. And then there are national and international organizations that also offer training. If you Google around a little bit, you could find it. Those would likely be virtual, though. So good luck. And again, just to echo for the lab, we're happy to have anybody participate who has interest in this and related areas. Thanks. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Susan. And we'll have we have Susan's email in the chat in a little bit. So if you want to write to us, you can write to us, and we'll get back to you. And we will also paste the evaluation link in a bit. So generally, how we close our meetings is, we do a chat fall. So chat fall is when we ask you to type one word in the chat about how you feel after the event. And what we do is we all type that word, and then we count backwards 3 to 1, and then we just have that word. We just we hit the button at the same time. So what I'll do is, we can just start typing one word for today. And while you do that, you can see Susan's email and the evaluation link. Chat ball. So we can write our one word for today. How you feel after the circle. Okay, we can all click it together. 3, 2, 1. Thank you all for your words. Meron, would you like to read the words from the chat?
Yes, I would love to. So I'm seeing a lot of hopeful, respected, inspired, fulfilled, respected again, fulfilled a couple more times, deeply moved, respect again, inspired, hopeful again by me, enlightened, respected, thankful, grateful, hopeful, thankful, joyful, grateful, appreciation, gratitude, and comfortable. That's new. I like that. I also felt very comfortable in my group, hopeful and respect. I'm glad you all felt this way.
Thank you all for being with us. We will be here till for a few more minutes. You can fill in the evaluation form. The link is in the chat. If you want to leave, you can leave, or if you want to stay on, we'll be here for a few questions for a little bit. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you.